of a sudden, I found myself in love with the whirl. So there was only one thing that I could do, was ding-a-ding-dang, my dang-along-ling-long.
I don't want this to be the ADD podcast, but I remember you were in the WWE.
Yeah.
For a while. You were heavyweight champion at one point, yeah?
No, not for them. No, it's I think the reason they brought Ken Shamrock and myself in is we both had this professional wrestling background, and we end up having each a match, and I think that they were looking for the trifecta to take place inside, the wacky world of professional wrestling, but it never did.
Did you actually get hurt that one time?
I did.
That one time you were laid up? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, with Owen Hart.
Yeah. It was Owen Hart, right?
Yeah,
that wasn't part of the script.
Oh no, it was for him to do the move, yes,
not the way you got.
But because I'm so much heavier than what he is, and Owen had some baby oil, I slid a little bit further south, so that when he brought me on down, I hit right on top of my head.
Yeah, it looked like it. Looked like you landed right on top of your head.
I had a lightning bolt run down my leg and stuff like this. I laid there, and literally it freaked him out to see how I just laid there. And I used to have a mouthpiece in my mouth, obviously. I just pushed out with my tongue. I just let it roll out. It just rolled across my face and hit the canvas. And literally, he thought like I might be.
Well, he was kind of. It looked like I watched this a month ago. It looked like he was kind of playing both parts, like keep up the entertainment component of it, and still kind of taking a look at you to make sure you're okay. Because you really did. It looked like you landed right on your head.
Well, I did. When he actually leaned over and he kind of whispers like. Yeah, because you can't reach out and he grabbed my hand. He goes, if you're okay, squeeze my hand. I didn't squeeze it. I did not though. Wow. So match is done. We go back through the curtain.
Well, you were taken out. You were taken out on the stretcher.
Right, exactly. So once I get back past the curtain, I get up off the the stretcher, stuff like this. And he comes over and he's like, well, why didn't you squeeze my hand, stuff like this? And that's when I came after him. And I'm got the figure for real in his chest. I go, and why did you drop me on my head? For real,
right?
I go. You violated the number one rule of professional wrestling. You protect me, and I protect you.
What do you say?
Oh, you just couldn't say nothing right there.
Sorry about that, or is it a slip?
To be sorry to cut it there. Yeah, not in that. It's professional wrestling is the absolute worst industry I have ever been involved in.
You're talking about entertainment wrestling.
Yes, yeah. When I say professional wrestling, Vince McMahon, WWE, WWF, whatever you want to say there, the sports entertainment aspect. But the kudos I give to it, professional wrestling is the most incredible sport. You got some incredible athletes, some doing some most incredible athletic maneuvers without the aid of a safety net. It has the highest death rate of all professions, highest addiction rate. Most of these athletes, they take themselves out through overdoses on an annual basis. But when you look at the schedule, last I knew the schedule was 183 matches you wrestle a year. Now, that doesn't mean travel to and travel back from. 183 matches is a lot of matches. A lot of these guys are not very structured in their life, so they need something to get them up, get them on in the morning. So they take some type of an amphetamine. They've got to be going to the gym, so now they're taking steroids. They're taking growth hormones. They're getting hurt through their matches, so now they're taking painkillers, muscle relaxers. They need something to put them down at night. And now you mix all that with any kind of party favors. On top of those party favors, most of these guys, their heart just gives out. They never wake up in the morning. Overdoses.
Oh, yeah, there's so many WWF or E or whatever you want to call it, wrestlers that have died. I mean, if you go through the list, you'd be shocked. Maybe not, but I mean, just the number of people that pass away of drug overdoses or suicides or there we go, going to suicides, is astonishing. Yeah, and then you got some guys that go crazy off of that potentially. I don't remember the stories.
I've actually outlived, I think, 5 of my cage fighting opponents and almost 30 of my professional wrestling partners, and none of them were older than me. Wow. But it's called lifestyle choices. None of us going to get out of the game of life alive. It's just how long did you stay in the game and how much fun did you have along the way.
Yeah. Well, did you think about who was it? We talked a few weeks back. Who was it that was paralyzed recently in a WWE style? It was
Okay.
Don Fry
Yeah,
fought.
Don Fry versus Takayama
Right.
in the Ultimate Fighting. Well, not now. It was
That was
a Pride.
Pride,
It was a
right.
Pride, and literally, if we, as we talk about this match, this is where a match where literally they are. It's called the collar tie, but it looks like they're cradling each other's head, and they're just smacking each other in the face for almost 1 solid minute. They're just going back and forth, smack, 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 almost like a game of chicken. Are you about to give up, or am I going to give up?
It's
And-
also one of the most famous clips about
Oh, it is.
in mixed martial arts history. But
Yeah.
they both took a good beating during that minute.
Oh, I did not see that match until a couple months after the fact. And after I finally saw that match, I had to call Don Fry. You may not know this, but Don Fry was actually one of my wrestlers when I was coaching at
Tell him
Arizona
just
State.
tell him to cut it out. Don't do that again.
Oh, wow, no. I told him, I go, Don,
What are you doing?
what exactly was going through your mind other than Takayama's fist, okay, that night?
They really banged.
Oh, they both paid a price.
They did.
See, people don't realize each time you get hit in the head, you lose something.
So
But-
brain cells.
But how much of it is going to show up and how soon? Some people may take a few years down the road before things come unravel. And use a Muhammad Ali as an example. He left the ring fully intact. It wasn't until later in life that things started to come unravel for him.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was due to all the strikes to the head.
Yeah, well, he took a lot of hits too.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you look
I mean, but they say that the UFC or MMA in general is safer than boxing.
Oh, I would definitely say that.
Because you're not getting hit. But back to my point, that you were telling me that Takayama, is that it?
Yes.
That he's paralyzed now. Right?
Yes.
From a entertainment style
From a
wrestling
professional wrestling or wrestling, yes, entertainment style match. It was just a routine technique. No, I have not seen the clip or nothing
fight. I
like
don't
that.
think that there is one. I looked for it. I don't think there is a. Well, at least not on the regular web. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't see that actual. I looked for it after we talked last time and didn't see.
Yeah, the only recent death that I'm even aware of is that Big Van Vader passed away last week, but his was nothing of a drug overdose or nothing like that. His was all due to, I think, a heart attack.
Who was that?
Big Van Vader. He, 400-pound professional wrestler. He used to wear this mask type of a garb, but he was.
Did he go by anything else? Did he go by another name?
His real name was Leon White. His ring name was Big Van Vader, 400+ pound professional wrestler that could actually stand on the top ropes and do a moonsault. Now, me personally, I would not lay there and see a 400-pound man because if he miscalculated, he'll kill you.
Yeah, you're getting a 400
Oh, yeah.
pound slamming down on you like that. Do you know who that is? There's not too many guys that are that big in the WWE.
Well,
You
not-
get
not
the
too
big
peop-
show, of course, but
No one would be that big to be climbing up on the top rope and pulling off moonsaults. That's ridiculous. I would do a moonsault, and I'm nowhere near 400 pounds, but I would never even attempt doing that. It's just not in my repertoire.
it's not in your repertoire. How long were you in the WWE? It was only a couple of years, right?
Well, I had a couple year contract, but it was a limited contract. I was, as far as I know, I am still the only unrestricted professional wrestler ever to be under contract. I was working for the National Wrestling Alliance, NWA, and
Were they still around? Yeah.
yeah, they're still around. Matter of fact, there's a new ownership with it. I think there's an event that I will be out to. Not in Iowa. I can't think of it. I will be out in Iowa next month.
You're talking about the same NWA from like the 80s, like Ric Flair. That NWA.
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know they were still-
It's changed. It's changed.
I thought that
hands.
they had gotten sucked up by like Strike Force or whatever. Not by them, but I mean they'd been gone a long time ago. Like Vince McMahon made them go away.
Well, I know when I first came on board, it was the idea of a Dennis Carluso out of New Jersey, a promoter. I think there was only a total of 3 or 4 promoters left in the world that supported the NWA at that time. And it was Dennis's idea to put the strap on me. And I was down in a professional match. Let's see there with the tennis wheeling Jim Cornette. He was running Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And I ended up winning the strap off of Chris Candido. Chris Candido is no longer with us. I think he passed away at 27 years of age through kind of a blood clot. He got some type of a staph infection on his leg and then a blood clot. And but 27, wow, that's pretty incredible.
A lot of people get staph infections in wrestling. Why is that? What's the science behind that?
I couldn't tell you.
We don't know.
Not a clue.
You hear about that? Who's that? Kenneth. Is it Randleman?
Yes, Ken Randleman, yes.
He died of that. It's a huge staph infection. He was in Strike Force.
Right. No, he was an incredible amateur wrestler for Ohio State.
Yeah, he was a big guy, very successful.
Yeah, when you think about the Hammer House, Mark Coleman, Kevin Randleman, there's a couple others. I'm pulling blank right now.
Well, he got some kind of major staph infection. If you looked at the pictures, it was like a piece of his body was just missing entirely prior to him passing away. I think he died about 2 years ago. Of course, I'm like in a time warp. We were talking about Israel and Syria last week, and something that happened. I said 2 weeks or 2 years ago. It was actually 10 years ago. It was 2007 that they did that. By the way, just for last week's corrections. Well, I said a couple. Well, you get everything's yesterday, right? So I said Israel had attacked Syria nuclear site a couple of years ago. It was actually 2007. I went back and looked at it after, and the timing was impeccable because they admitted it just a month ago that actually happened, because they both sides had denied that ever occurred. Nonetheless, outside of my ADD, it's like last week's corrections with Dan Severn.
Focus.
I am very focused. So I was watching you beat up Tank Abbott pretty good the other night. He took a good beating.
Well, when
that's when headbutts were allowed. Because I saw you headbutting him a few times.
Well, the listeners, they're in tune to mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts, that phrase coined of MMA, mixed martial arts, did not come about until I think 2005, 2006, somewhere in that range. But with mixed martial arts, you had either 47 or 49 rules. Athletes now wear gloves. There's rounds. There's just a lot more civilized type of a sport. Back in the NHB, which stood for No Holds Barred era, the athletes were abided by 2 rules, those being no biting, no eye gouging.
They had to kind of do that, didn't they? I mean, the UFC. I mean,
to make the changes
in order to get sanctioned by any athletic commission.